Okay, so we're talking about couple sessions, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I reckon is a huge work with them. I mean, obviously, they can present with something that you go immediately. Okay, you can see what the obstacle to their awareness is right now, and then you'll work with that, obviously. But in the general kind of thing, or in direction of where they're going in their work, or where you can help their awareness, as something you either hint at, gently nudge them towards the realization of, or, if nothing else comes up, it's a good one to just be direct with them about it. Yeah? Is so being a couple, they're together, and that initial attraction that usually takes them into being a couple and stuff, that indicates the usefulness each can be to the other in terms of the healing of the getting through the natural process of resolving the childhood and the past. Um, the process is that each of them is a really good trigger to the other for evoking that past. And it sounds a bit cold and negative, but on the one hand, evoking that past raises these feelings that were put away for later, that were too much to feel in fullness back then. And it gets them felt, which is also gets them finished. So they're no longer in the subconscious making a pressure and getting the subconscious mind to make plans to trip them up and to give them attractions to people who are going to trigger those things, and all the various things the subconscious mind does to keep tricking us into feeling those feelings we put away for later.
Mm.
And yeah, so that you got it. That's quite a bit of a rap, because not a lot of people get that thing too clearly. Of it's the feelings put away for later in childhood, that then the eroticism and all the crazy, dangerous, risky things, and all the rejection it makes you risk, and all the needing and wanting that's not going to be met, that it makes you feel, that happens when your hormones hit in when you're a teenager. That rush of stuff, that's supposed to get all the past of childhood revisited, because you can't feel those things in fullness in childhood, and you can't express them in fullness because you're a child. You're going to get murdered if you express anything like that in fullness, and
Yes,
biologically you know that. So you wait
yes,
until teenagerhood. But of course, our culture, we delay the whole repression thing. We make people too chicken to go get their rejections and have their unhappy love affairs and all that. So they slow that whole thing down. And then, the delay of that is generally just delays the human maturation. So where a couple have got awesome stuff going for them, and it's good to acknowledge it with them, is that they've got someone in their lives there a lot of the time that is a good trigger for them. And if they can discover or get into the Adams family perversity thing, of instead of trying to seek ways to avoid triggering each other because it makes a fight or anything, try and actually finish the feelings that are behind that. Be willing to go into them when they're triggered enough to really, you know, get the juice of them, and get them felt. Um, in willingness to do that, it's maybe good to mention that the normal resistances, there's two normal heavy areas of resistance to feeling things that are put away for later. The first one of them is the mind coming up with, I shouldn't have to be feeling this. If this person hadn't done or said this unconscious or a rude thing or whatever, it wouldn't have triggered me. Rude is defined really by that which triggers me, like rich people, money's a rude topic,
mm,
etc. Sexually repressed people, happy sex life is a rude topic, or whatever,
yeah,
Um, but the thing is that if they can get into the sort of the gratitude and the realizing that actually, where a couple get a big insight into this already, is if they've been together a while, they know where they've triggered each other. And they know that some areas, it's good to explore back in the past with them. Some things that used to really piss them off about each other, or used to really regularly get them going, no longer do. And they'll
mm,
express it in some way they found an acceptance with that. But if you explore with them, what were the feelings that rose then? And are those feelings coming up? Is maybe the context has just changed and the feelings are still coming up and the story's just changed. But often you'll find actually they hit each other, if they triggered each other enough on a thing, then the feelings got finished. And then it's just a joke between them. And
Yeah.
they can joke about it. All couples have those things they joke about that used to trigger the hell out of them. And to realize that that actually is the process. And you only slow it down by avoiding the triggering. And it's only so hard and so tough and so torturous, really, because of that avoidance, because of that being triggered into these unpleasant feelings, but then putting in all that effort to resist going into those feelings, trying to put on some anger, fight back, protect your tenderness, and all that. That's the real torture. Yeah. And then you can get them, you can see, they can have a bit of fun with this. I mean, it's good to find fun where you can. The thing that I found works nicely, just to take a really common archetypal feeling thing, I was working with a couple that had, one side of it had a hell of an issue with jealousy. And it wasn't even jealousy on the level of that there's some true practical concern, or she's actually so worried about what he might do elsewhere. But it's about the losing him. And his view is that's not a negotiable. He's with her, And there's nothing to worry about out there. But if there was, it's still nothing to worry about in terms of his connection with her. And so on. And so in the logic, they've got all that, and that's fine. But in the feelings, man, anytime anything there can possibly trigger a suspicion, and she's, repressing the urge to express the jealousy because it's not cool to express the jealousy because that's not really that suspicious. And then 2 or 3 things, and a few days sort of fuming about it, and then a little bit of alcohol, and then, whoa, he gets it, And, of course, he has his side in it, and that triggers stuff in him, and it's good for him to feel that. But for her, to just help her not have such an intensity of stress in the body, I mean, it hurts the body to do that, I suggested to her, and it seemed to work really well, it was micro-triggering. We sort of invented this idea of micro-triggering. So my suggestion was, look, the real truth is that if he's out of your sight for more than, 2 minutes, then the fact is, even if he couldn't actually have had some cute girlfriend pop round and have a real quickie, he could have had a quick masturbation thinking about someone else, or he could have just had, if he's been out of your sight for 2 minutes, you don't know where that boy's been, is my point, in terms of his mind, his psyche, where his mind goes. You really don't. It's a fact. And if he's been out of your physical presence for more than 10 minutes, then you really, really don't know where he's been. And it's possible to have that as a trigger, a real silly little trigger that your mind even knows is silly. And nonetheless, the feelings of jealousy will arise, and you'll have the background knowing of there's a slight silliness to this. But when he comes in, you curse him for it. And emotionally, rather than have a big explosion every now and again, from his side, it can be fun to be, go to the kitchen, make tea, come back, and get accused of having an affair, imaginary or otherwise, in that time. It's ludicrous. And one might be able to giggle about it. And the feelings that need to be felt can be felt. And if the feelings are really felt around that, there's going to be some really sweet sharing of tears and stuff,
Yeah.
And then the feelings are gone, and it doesn't. And the basic thing is, if one doesn't enjoy being triggered, the cure, I'm afraid, is to be willing to get triggered enough until it's finished. And the quicker and more open and more accepting you can be of that process, the faster it will go. And everywhere in life where you really choose to resist and dig in about that, it's going to become, there it can be a perpetual torture.
Yes.
So couples there's a real awesome benefit in terms of this, of having someone available to play consciously with that thing of being triggered. If you're both aware that your job is to trigger the other, like if the partner manages to then say something that makes you feel shame, and it's not true shame about this moment, that this is obviously disproportionate, this has that quality of feeling put away for later. This is from a childhood that's been triggered. You can go, oh, that's why I have a good wife. just to help me feel my shame. Well, that's why I have such a good husband. Oh, when I need to feel my shame and there's still something lurking there, oh, he'll find it for me. Oh, thank you, Happy. Oh, yummy. You know? And it's a torture, and a little bit of that willingness, and then shame is there, and shame is in perspective in what it truly is in life, which is a silly little zone of mind judgment that really doesn't mean anything particular.
Yeah.
Kind of fun, something that every child gets loaded with, and every teenager should unload. But, this is part of catching up with that quality of repression in the culture and getting back to being a full you could say the natural human pace of development. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in terms of tantra stuff, if they want to work on that, well, it's really gorgeous doing, around touch work, show him how to touch her, show her how to touch him, that stuff. That's great. In terms of desires, I think maybe it's really good to have a session maybe on desires, ambitions, plots and schemes, that whole sort of wish list intention thing around what they want for their marriage. And then get them to pick something of it, pick some strong, outstanding one they both agree on as like, oh, they so want that. And then get them to both do a square on it, those square exercises where you unpack the mind's 4 quadrants. Yeah? You find it in the notes in my book. Anyway. That's a really good exercise for them to get that, taking on a thing is a whole thing. You don't get the polarities, but you might still want to take it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, for you, the real guidance is whatever you see is the obstacle to their awareness right here, right now. That's what you're working with, I'm sure. But hear them. There's all sorts of reasons people come together for this work. Some of those reasons, sometimes they could really worry you on first presentation. About the only one that I can't even entertain, that I don't even invite couples for a session over, is if he's a total patriarch and he's saying, my wife's an underperformer sexually and I want an upgrade for her. Yeah.
Oh, that's arrogant.
No, you know why I don't?
What would some punchline questions be to weed out those idiots?
Well, actually, I suppose the next time something that happens, I'm going to be tempted to help the poor darling with the upgrade, but then the problem is the guy's going to be wanting to sue me over the divorce and stuff. It's not going to go well. If they go that way, you just I don't know. It depends what someone's looking for. If you get the kind of thing where the guy is saying, "Is your work genuine?" and genuine. When you hear that word "genuine" come, it means am I going to ejaculate?
Lawrence from the Tantric Fires Retreat.
Yeah, I like coming for tantra. I like coming for tantra because I'm so stressed and it relaxes me so well. That's why I want a session, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's and I mean, how to say?
Well, there's something wrong with the other one.
There's nothing wrong with the schools who try and work with people from that point, but it's just you, me, and so many practitioners know in the school that the percentage of guys who come with that kind of presentation, I mean, one in a lot of them is that one in a lot who's never thought about this thing before, who's done the tiniest little bit of non-research, is actually kind of possibly actually a workable seeker if he gets going. But that's incredibly rare. Most of these are just old whoremongers and who've been cruising around the internet trying to find various forms of girl entertainment. And I mean, hey, that's their thing. I've got no problem with it. And the other ones are sort of hubbies on the edge of taking that step they should have taken at 9 years old, of claiming, stealing the keys of their freedom from mummy at 9, but they didn't do it then, so they're trying to do it from their wives later. and they're still too chicken to outright steal the keys and do what it is they actually want to do as if they were like a man. And so they go, I can't want to have an affair with that cute secretary, but I'll go to that happy ending massage person thing. And they think, because happy ending massage people sometimes advertise on Tantra hashtags on Twitter and shit. So he thinks that's what the thing is. And he thinks then I'll have an affair, but it's not an affair because I didn't enter a woman and she just it was massage, it was talk to the hand, And so it wasn't really an affair. And he kind of wiggles his brain around that he can now tell his wife, no, he's still sexually faithful and all to her. And I mean, I don't know. We can unlock such people when they're that locked up, but it's better to wait for them to claim their own freedom and then come looking to us from a bit of I mean, again, it's like out of those, the number you're going to work with, the effort you're going to put in, and the one or two who are just presenting like that, but there's something deeper, rather let those one or two find some other way of finding that step, and then they'll come to you.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so
thank you.
Hey,
that's very helpful.
Yeah. So, Shireen, sweetie darling, you're okay with me recording this? I mean, I did restart the Skype. I told you to record it, just to pop up on maybe my laptop talks playlist, or maybe I have to start a new playlist for,
sure.
Skype advisings or something. Because I think this is useful for practitioner people to hear, working with couples or that kind of thing, huh? Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I agree. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That must be why you're my favorite. Yeah.
For today.
Oh, I'll never put a qualifier on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Much appreciated.